Hi all! I'm going to make a hat and a bag that are interchangeable. Only a couple of changes between the two of them, and I will show you how to do that. So this is 100% acrylic, and it's called a gold, but it's kind of more like a rust orange to me. And it's a 4-weight worsted. But I'm using these colors for either a fox or a corgi. You can use whatever colors you want. This is, just a very simple pattern. I'm using 5.5 millimeter tulip Atimo with my adaptive foam so that I can, crochet a little bit longer with less pain. Slip knot. We'll do 2 stitches, two chains, and then go back into the first stitch. Do a chain, and then pull through 2. I'm still pinching that first chain. Pinch it, pull through 2. I have a video that I've already created that will show you in more detail on how to make a single crochet foundation chain. I really like making these instead of a chain to start because, well, number one, you've already got your chain and your first row of single crochets finished. So I'll meet you back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put single crochets back and forth until I get the circumference of my forehead, short of about 4 rows. Because we have to put in the white rows so that we have the stripe that goes down the nose of either your corgi or your fox. So turn your work, go back with a single crochet, and keep doing that until you're about 4 rows short of the circumference of your head. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. I'm going to turn. I'm going to lay this yarn, just waste yarn right here. You can use stitch markers if you want. I just find it easier just to pick up a little piece of, leftover yarn. You go back into your stitch, and there's your end. There's your end stitch. Go ahead and continue with your single crochets. And these are normal single crochets where you go under the V. Both front and back loops. So here we go. Look at the end here. Do you see this? This is where the loop is on the outside. That is your last stitch. It looks like it might be on the side, but it's actually your very last stitch. And there it is. You turn. Go ahead and place your stitch marker waste yarn right there. Go back into the first stitch and pull it through those 2 loops. There's your next end stitch, and it makes a very straight edge. It's just something that I do. I know that a lot of crocheters do it differently. They don't tie knots, but that's what I do. I just tie a knot, and then I let the tails hang out, and I take a tapestry needle, and I just basically do the normal sewing in of the ends. So there's the knot. It's right there against that stitch. I guess I have a little bit of worry that it's going to unravel. So I tie it in like just a little half hitch knot. And then the two ends, I work them back and forth 3 times on usually on one side and one on the other, so they don't interfere with each other. And it spaces out the thickness of having that extra yarn embedded into the fabric. That's what I do. Usually the knot is not pun noticeable. You can't usually feel it. So that's how I do it, and it works really well, even with like lace stuff, because it's it's knotted together. But a thick fabric like this, it just disappears into it. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so I have come to the end of the little stripe that I want to put on the forehead. Okay, so this is the part that I want facing out. This is the part that I want facing in. So let's do it like that. Again, this has kind of a little bit of an open weave part to it, but once I crochet it together, it'll probably tighten up. I gotta move my working yarn to the back, which is the white. I'm just going to drop the stitch, and now I'm going to pick up from across the gap, pick up that loop. Okay, and now I want to go through, take both yarns up, and then just slip stitch. Now remember, this is the inside, the part that will be against your head, and the outside of the right side we'll flip it. So I'll meet you back at the end. I tried it on. I think it looks fine. I'm going to cut this live yarn I've just got a little bit of this white left, and this is going to be against the brim, like the head, the forehead. But yeah, I'm just going to hold this and just do a single crochet all the way around. Just going to drop the orange tail, just leave it down there. I'm not going to try to cover it with the white, just because it just doesn't look right. It keeps making a weird show through. I don't want it to show through. I'm not sticking my needle in anywhere special. I'm just popping it in there wherever I can. Now these two I'm going to go ahead and trap. These are from the other end. I'm going to tighten them up a little bit. And this is how you even up the ends. Sometimes you drop stitches, sometimes you pick up an extra stitch, or sometimes your tension changes, and so your ends aren't always perfectly straight. This is a great way to get all of that under control. Anyway, I'll meet you back. Do your best. Slip stitch into the first stitch. I'm going to do 2 chains, and I'm going to cut it. Okay. Try to pull that knot down as tightly as you can. I'm going to start in the back. We're still going to be doing single crochet, but to get started, we're going to do single crochet. So we did a slip stitch and pulled it through here, and we went next to it, and we're going to pull that up. So we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to make a chain, pinch it, and go through that slip stitch. So now we're going to go back to that first chain and pull through, and we do another chain, and then we go through those 2 loops. We go back into that loop, that first chain, pinch it, one, two, three, four, 5. This will be the last one. This is 6. Okay. And we're going to turn it. I'm going to go back into that top part of the stitch and make a stacking single crochet. Now we're going to do 5 more single crochets, but this time instead of through the whole thing, because the end piece we're going to do through the whole thing, but this one in the middle, just the front loop. We're just doing single crochets in the front loop. Okay, let's count. 1. This one right here on the end, remember, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 more. Now we want to not go through this one. We're going to go into this one and just do a slip stitch. Okay, and then do another slip stitch, and then we're going to turn or pull it back. I would prefer to turn the whole thing just so that your band doesn't get too twisted out of shape. Now we're going to go down into this one, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at your end one, that's 6. This one right here is 6. So we're only going to go into the front loops. No matter what side we're on, it's always front loops, okay? Front loops, single crochets. And try not to split the yarn. Oh, and the last one, I actually want you to go through both loops here. That's what I want. Go through both. And you go through both loops on this one as well. And then you go back to your front loops only. And when I say front loops, I want the loop that's closest to you. It starts to get a little tight. And count your loops. Don't forget to count this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 on that row. Now we're going to do a slip stitch here, and then a slip stitch here. You do 2 slip stitches, 1 in each stitch going forward. And continue to do that until you get to the end. I'll meet you back. I wanted to very quickly make a point about hiding ends. When you're going to be making a project and you know the direction in which it's going to stretch, in this case, the hat will be stretching outwards this way, like that. Don't hide your ends going back and forth along that stretch. You want to go against the stretch. So I'm going to be hiding this end here up and down in the white that, in the same color, just because I know that in the past I've made projects where I hid back and forth, and then as it stretched, especially with something slippery like this Cara and Simply Soft, the ends will start to pop out, and then you'll have these little bits, and it's not a nice setup. So let me go ahead and flip it, because this is the part that won't be seen as often. I intend on wearing it with the brim up. So I hope that makes sense. I'm just going up the line of stitches this way, and then I'm going to go back down and usually 3 stitches is enough. Cara Simply Soft has a tendency to work its way out because it's just slippery. It reminds me a lot of bamboo, if you've ever worked with bamboo. Okay, so I went down, up, and then down again, and 3 times is usually good enough. So I'm going to do that with this one, and then I've got a couple more ends to hide, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut a piece that's like 3 times the length of this hat. And just going to tie a little knot here. And just go back and forth. I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've sewed it shut. I'm going to go around to make a loop. And I'm just going to go under that loop and then go under that loop again, and that makes a knot. Okay, and now because it stretches this way, we're going to go down and up. And you want to make sure that you don't sew it so tightly that it starts to bow in. It's actually better to have it loose. But now I'm going to just go down and up into it and then thread it. That's another trick. If you've got a really short tail and you just want to get that little end in there. See this? It's like a little wool. You can actually use these as your needles to sew, but I use them to thread my needles. show you the package. It says wool needles aluminum. That's what this is. It's the smaller one. So now I'm just going to pull it through. Okay. Kind of pull it up a little bit. I don't want it to buckle. I don't want it to be pulled too tightly. I want to cut that. All right. Here we go. The moment of truth. Push your little points out. You want them as pointy as possible. Pointy points. I'm pushing with my finger from the inside to get that pointy out. Okay. So when you put it on, these little guys should stick up, but there is a way to make it look even more like a pair of ears, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so this is where I'm going to start my And when you're sewing, the rule of thumb is don't make the yarn or the thread longer than 3 feet, because it's almost impossible for you to pull through the yarn in one motion. It's better to make it shorter than 3 feet, a yard, 1 yard, just so that you can extend your arm completely through and get that. It's just a little thing I picked up sewing a lot of my life. I've been sewing. Okay, so now there's going to be a loop back here, and you're going to want to leave a little bit of a loop and then go back in again. Okay, see I went through the loop. You see that? Oh, I trapped it. Let me pull that out. This is where I'm going to knot on that side. So I haven't finished the beginning part. So anyway, do you see how it's come through the loop? Now I'm going to go through it again. And so now it's twisted around the yarn a couple of times, and now I'm going to pull that in like that. And that knotted it. And you can do that a couple times. And then hide your tails. Remember, hide your tails up and down. Okay, now we have to make sure we tie the knot on this side and hide the tail. I probably left a little bit long of a tail on this side. Probably didn't need to. Just wanted to make sure I had enough room for making my knots. Because the ear is going to stay pretty flat and it's not going to stretch as much. Okay, so that's one ear. You see, you can't get your hand up in that ear anymore, and it's going to stay flat. And you do the same thing on the other side. Okay, that's what the ears look like. They're sewed. You can pull this down a little tighter. But I just wanted you to see how the ears stay a little bit more pointy and flat when you sew them down. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to make a little triangle to go into the ear here, and just try to keep aware of where your thread is, where your stitches are. You can put your hand in here and kind of feel where it ends. And that's it. This is your triangle. You don't want it to go down below onto your head. You want it to keep it up in the ear. So this is going to be a very small triangle. And you can just make like a little chain. And you don't want it to be from tip to tip. You want to have it to come in a little bit. So that's about as long as you want it to be. Just double check and make sure you're at the edge there. Okay, and now you'll just make this smaller and smaller each time. So let me just put one more stitch in and then go in on the second loop. You can go in to the second loop, the second stitch, rather than putting it directly into the first stitch. Turn your work, stitch into the next one, rather than going into the one that you just made. This makes a very, very fast triangle. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Turn, and then go into the next. There we go. It's split. I think this is the last one. Okay. And there's your little ear triangle. And you can sew that down with regular thread. I have some white thread around here. And I will sew it with just actual needle and thread. And do your best. Okay, so I have finished hiding the ends in my little triangles for the ears, and they're going to go up here. I'm going to sew them with a needle and thread, and I'm just trying to decide which ones look best. But yeah, they're a little bit rounded at the bottom. I can fix that with sewing. I think this is how I'm going to put them on, just like that. Okay, so I will meet you back after I finish sewing them. And it's got a really nice soft glitter in it, and I think it's been discontinued, unfortunately. It's acrylic and yeah, 85% acrylic, 15% polyester, which is the glitter. It's very soft. It's really nice here after I figured out where the center is. And what I mean by center is I want to find the center of the stripe, and then not quite to the edge of the brim, but pretty close. And I'm just going to leave the tail. Maybe one more stitch coming down here to the center. I'm just going to tie it lightly. Oh, it's funny. So now you have to keep the broom up because you have all this stuff underneath. But that is so funny. That's a funny hat. It looks like it's about right. Doesn't that look right to you? Yeah. Okay. So there was just 3 little like eyelashes. Trying to pull it through here. There we go. Now when I tie it, let me see if I can do this. I tie it this way, left over right, lightly. And then I switch it. I actually switch the yarns, I turn them, and I do it left over right again. Leave it at that. Just the little corners for the eyelashes. Whiskers, nose. There's a little sparkle to it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget, if you like this, you can share it with your friends. I really appreciate all of your support.